everyone. So I'm going to quickly do a little discussion about the first chakra. I'm going to create another section, another video for the second chakra about it before we go into an asana practice. Last month in March, I gave you just the asana. There was a little bit of discussion beforehand about Moulidara, but I want to go into some other aspects of it. And then we'll get moving. So, Moulidara is the first chakra. And traditionally, so if you Google Moulidara, M-U-L-A-D-H-A-R-A, and I'll have all of this in the description, you will see the traditional image that we use to symbolize that chakra. We now see the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, silver, sparkliness up above. That was only really set in place in I think the 80s or something like that. And as a matter of fact, I was told that there was a student of White Lotus, which is where I went for my teacher training out in Santa Barbara. It was actually one of their students that decided to just set it to the rainbow. However, there are very specific colors that signify the different chakras, and it's important to sort of understand that. So, Moulidara, Moul means root, and we talked about that in the last video. So Moulabandha, the engagement of the pelvic floor muscles, that perineum right there, Moulabandha is, as root sort of as you can get at the base of your spine, engaging that muscle there. And then the word adara means support. So you're supporting the root. The root is the base of the entire thing. Again, I sort of talked about that. The root chakra is said to be located at the base of the spine. So you know where your tailbone is, that's your coccyx, and it's said to be in that area. Now, when we're talking about the location of the chakras, we are talking about energy centers. We aren't saying you can't open me up and actually look at my chakra. Perhaps you have some sort of superpower that allows you to see chakras in people, sort of seeing their auras. We're not going to get into that. But they're said to be energy centers. And the visualization for chakras is typically if you look at the drawings, they are lotus flowers. And each chakra then has a different number of petals. Well, the number of petals that is drawn on a chakra relates to sort of two aspects of it. One aspect is that the chakra is seen as a vortex. It's a sort of swirling thing. And we're going from a lower frequency to a higher frequency. And anytime you're going lower to higher in speed or frequency or something like that, you have, so the lower one has fewer petals, right? And then you increase in petals as you go up. Just sort of like on a bicycle, the lower speed is a bigger, it just fell out of my head, gear. And once you get into the faster speeds, that's going to be a smaller gear, right? And so something is slower, there's maybe it's a little bit heavier, something like that. So there are fewer petals, the vortex swirls slower, it resonates at a lower frequency. If you were to hear it, if you were to talk about that frequency, it's a lower sound, it's a deeper sound. And then it gets higher and vibrates faster as it goes up. So if you think about that from a physics standpoint, a physical standpoint, if something has a really high frequency and it vibrates really fast, then you need to make sure it has a good base, right? Because if something moves really fast, then it's likely not going to be too terribly stable at the bottom if it's still moving really fast at the bottom. You have to have something slower at the bottom. So a lot of this makes sense. Also, again, sort of thinking about this from a physical standpoint, you're sort of working your way to a higher frequency. We can't reside at a high frequency all the time. You know people like that. They ping, right? You're just like, that person is bouncing with energy. However, okay, this is no judgment, but what we're looking to do is find balance from the 1st to the 7th chakra, because there are moments of high energy. There are moments of low, slow energy. And then there's something in between. And we want to sort of be able to go between all of these when it's necessary. If you're constantly vibrating really high, I mean, you could see this as anxiety. You could see this as sort of like disconnected. Like, you see people that are like, ah, and you're like, that person needs to be grounded, right? They need to, and you almost even want to like bring them down. You know, we have this sort of natural tendency, when you want to settle, you come down, right? So actually feeling grounded, coming down to the ground, coming to a seated position, feeling your feet. My grandmother used to grab my feet all the time, and that's one of like, that's a great way to actually calm somebody down. I mean, you have to know the person well, is to touch their feet. Kids, it doesn't work so well with animals all the time. Maybe your pets, mine aren't used to me grabbing their feet all the time. But holding onto somebody's feet is good for grounding. So that's Moulidara. It's at the base of the spine. And there's a sound that goes along with it, and it's lum, lum, lum. And you can even hear lum. Like, that's a really low, not just deep, not just like a low sound, but it's like, it even feels like it's low to the ground, lum, right? So lum. The element is earth, which makes sense, right? The earth itself, dirt, ground, and all of the stuff that's in it. We have roots that are in the earth. And so when we're talking about the body parts that are associated with the 1st chakra, and when we talk about body parts, this could be body parts that are, man, I really hate to use positive or negative, but I'm going to have to just for the sake of this. Something that can be positively or negatively influenced by this chakra, by this energy. So, legs, feet, bones, large intestines, coccygeal nerve, plexus, the coccygeal nerve plexus, and the prostate. So these are all things that are lower in your body. These are things that root you and ground you. Feet and legs, I think that makes sense. These are your foundation. We know from an anatomical standpoint that if your feet are out of whack, if your legs are out of whack, hips, then that affects your entire body. We frequently talk about, like, if the foundation of a house wasn't stable, the whole thing would be unstable. The roof would be crooked. Your walls would be weird. You'd live in like a Tim Burton house. And as attractive as that would be, I mean, I actually visited some houses when I was trying to buy a house many years ago that was really like, the floors were uneven. And you're like, this is nauseating, just walking through it. So your bones, just the stability of your bones, because your bones themselves, whether you're standing, seated, supine, prone, whatever, your bones are the foundation of the entire body. Everything else is there to support the bones and to move the bones. If you had no bones, there would not be much of you, right? So the bones are the foundation for this entire body structure that you've got. Your large intestines, that makes sense. So You've got your small intestines, large intestines, and the large intestines are going to do a whole lot of the work to help with digestion and elimination. Well, elimination. And so when you think about your own body and elimination, when you think about roots, so we've got this nutrient transfer that happens in the roots of something. Heavier things are at the bottom. So something that's laden is going to be down at the bottom. So when we pack a suitcase, we pack heavier things at the bottom. The heaviest part of the body is at the bottom. Gravity, so forth. So that makes sense. So the coccygeal nerve plexus that is associated with the Moulidara chakra, it's the bundle of nerves that go from the very last part of your sacrum and then your coccyx. And pretty much it's just a nerve that gives sensation to your tailbone. It's kind of thought to be a layover from when we actually had tails. And if you've got a tail, you've got sensation in your tail. If you've ever accidentally stepped on your cat's tail, I'm not saying that I have, maybe. But anyway, there's sensation there. So it used to innervate much more of a tail that we used to have. So when you've got, oh, and the prostate. So men have a prostate only, or only men have a prostate. So when something is off with your first chakra, you may be able to sense it in these areas. And I will say, like, especially when you're talking about the large intestines, so this has a lot to do with diet. This is your gut. This is what we're talking about. So this is why diet and nutrition, what you eat, is so important. What you ingest and put in your body is so important because it affects everything else. You know, so many things that are wrong with us physically go back to our diet. And so it's important to recognize, what are the things that you eat that make you feel good physically? I mean, I could eat a gallon of ice cream and boy, like, my brain's going to be happy for a second, but then I'm going to suffer. I will admit, just over the past 2 days, I've been consuming an entire loaf of French bread. Because I'm weak, but I'm feeling it. Like, I'm super bloated, my body feels swollen, I feel like a sausage. And that is the root, and that's going to affect every other aspect of my body and my energy level and my brain function. Yesterday, holy cow, like, I couldn't get my brain to work for anything yesterday. Guarantee it had to do with this bread that I've been slogging through. I have got to stop that. So, some concepts that go along with root foundation of Moulidara, okay? Survival, vitality, grounding, security, support, stability, belonging. These are really important words, and I think that you can probably, if you took each of those words individually and you thought about, what does it mean to me? What does survival mean to me? Oh my God, we're in the midst of this COVID-19 thing. Survival is all that we're thinking about. We're thinking about that from the most basic fundamental things. Like, I mean, aside from toilet paper, but like food. So I have to consider a whole bunch of things, staying safe just to go out to go grocery shopping, or maybe I can't and I have to have everything delivered. I'm making decisions about what is essential. The government, state and federal, have made decisions about what's essential. And now then we really get to find out, no, I guess I don't need to go to the movie theater. And all of the things around that. Bars are shut, you know, only places that serve food are still open. So, so we're really thinking about the things that help us survive. And what are we finding? One of the biggest aspects of survival is touch. How desperate are you for touch right now? I'm insane. I'm craving touch. It's absolutely essential for survival. And so when we look at all of these things, survival, vitality, grounding, security, support, stability, belonging, they're all related. And they're the foundation that everything else is built upon in my life, in your life, in our lives. I moved to Missoula because I felt like I belonged here. Yeah, there are things back in Columbus that I feel I belong there as well, but I felt a bigger tug, and that meant something. It meant so much to me to feel like I belonged that I lifted up my entire life and moved to the other side of the country. And so finding that root and that foundation is crucial. People who lack grounding, who lack connection to something, you can tell. You can tell in yourself. Like if you start a new job, if you do something new, this whole new thing that we're going through with quarantine and lockdown and everything, this is unprecedented. We're still figuring out how to handle isolation. It's hard. We're not built like that. We are not lone animals, right? Even when you talk about a lone wolf, well, wolves move in packs, okay? So when any of those things are out of whack, then what we see is an inability to take care of oneself. You feel ungrounded. You're not wanting to be on the planet. Constipation. I mean, there's no denying that. So focusing on your root energy, your root stability, belonging, figure it out. And if you need help, reach out to somebody and ask. Like, I feel nuts. I feel like I'm spinning out of control. How can I get grounded? What do I need? One of the most important things that was suggested to me via a friend, via a horoscope, was to only focus on solvable problems, right? So stop making something bigger. Keep it simple, stupid, right? What do I need right now? Okay, right now I'm thirsty. Get a drink of water. Right now, I'm like spinning in my living room, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Sit down. Stop standing. So there are little things, take a shower. Clean up your space. Put your pens together. Stack your books. Stack your papers. Make a better workspace for yourself. These little things that help you feel grounded and like that you have some sort of, we can't control anything, but you feel that sort of balance. Like, okay, it makes sense that I put my computer here and my phone here and my coffee here and my pens here. Cut out the ridiculousness, okay? Take a moment to stabilize your life. Okay, and so when we go through the movements of working on the root chakra, we're working on Moulidara, our pelvic floor muscles, to help stabilize the whole pelvic floor before working up. Because engaging your core is nothing if you're engaging it and everything is pressing down. So you're working on that so that once we get up to the third chakra, we already have a good base for what we're doing here. And working on the foundation of all of these chakras is going to make it that much more powerful once we get up to the seventh chakra and when we put it all together. So it's root. It may not seem like much. Little things matter. But those little things create this fantastic base and foundation. Okay? So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Or put them in our Facebook group and we'll talk about it. I love talking about the chakras, okay? See you soon.